Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to my podcast. This is Kasia from The Kasia English. I am your favorite English teacher. And yes, this is the very first episode of the podcast that I will be bringing to you on a regular basis, hopefully. And we'll talk all things English, things about myself, things about how I have become a teacher and how I've become an English teacher on Instagram. I'll be sharing all the tips as to how to learn English more effectively. And I will just, share some fun facts with you about British culture, music, film, ghosts. Some of you probably know that I love thinking and talking about ghosts, although I get easily scared, but this is something that I quite like. So I hope you will stick around for a while and you will enjoy all the first episodes. So let's go. Did you know that you can actually study English with me? Just get in touch, follow me on Instagram at _Kasia, Kasia _English, The Kasia English, and give me a shout, send me a direct message, book a free consultation. The consultation is absolutely free and commitment free. That means you do not have to book anything. You do not need to pay for any classes, but you can still have a chat during our free consultation. See you around. Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to the first episode of my podcast, the Kasia English podcast. If you're here, you have probably seen my Instagram account, and that's probably how you found me. Or maybe you have studied with me earlier, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. Anyway, I'm really happy to see you here, and I hope that you will enjoy this episode, which can be a little bit clumsy. It can be a little bit clunky, as it's my very first time. And as you know already, we always make mistakes, and we need to practice to get rid of them. But without them, we are not able to make progress. So I might seem or sound a little bit, hesitating, and I might have a couple of slips of the tongue. But that's natural. I am the real life example of someone who is trying to learn something new, to go out there, and I don't really care if I make some mistakes. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, today I wanted to talk a little bit about myself and tell you a little bit about my journey with English and how it all started. So we will have to move back to year 91, or actually to year 85 when I was born. I was born in Warsaw. My mom, Lydia, and my dad, Dario, have always listened to music, especially my dad. I remember he would record, songs of the radio, the songs that we liked, and we would ask Dad to kind of listen out for the track that we enjoyed, and then he would record it on a cassette tape. So that was the first time I actually got in touch with English in songs and music. And it kind of remained, something natural in my life, as my dad was a huge music geek. The music was on all day and all night, literally day in, day out. So as a natural kind of a consequence, I took up the interest and had my favorite bands already at the age of 6 and 7. That was Queen. And also another great breakthrough came when my dad installed cable TV. No, it was before the cable TV. It was when he brought a VHS mixtape, a music video mixtape, with videos recorded from MTV. And I have to tell you guys that MTV in the 90s was something incredible. I mean, it's nowhere, the later MTV was nowhere near the real deal 80s/90s MTV. And to a mind and imagination of a 7-year-old, all those claymation, stop motion ads in between songs, and all the crazy videos ranging from grunge, from metal to pop by the likes of Madonna was an amazing tour de force. And I guess that set the destination for the rest of, for the rest of my life. I'm, kind of until today, because my huge interest in music and in the video art, or music video art, kind of made me dream of living, or at least visiting London, as I knew that London was where everything, was the place where everything was happening back in the 90s. And if we look back at the 90s, especially 93, 94, we can talk about the Cool Britannia period, where British music basically experienced its revival, but I will talk about it some other time, maybe in another episode. Today I would just like to kind of explain why I have become a teacher, why I am still a teacher, and why I did not want to be a teacher. So, yes, many years forward, I got in a language high school with English and Spanish as the main languages, where Spanish was actually the main language. And these were the 4 years that I actually paid more attention and had, let's say, more feelings towards Spanish than English. And I managed to kind of develop my the command of Spanish to, let's say, native-like level, which I unfortunately lost because I haven't used it since 2010, Basically, since I graduated in 2010, I haven't used Spanish really. Since I moved to London, everybody has just been speaking English. So I will use Spanish, on an odd occasion when a Spanish person asks me for directions in the streets of London. But other than that, I will usually stick to English. So, yes, after high school, I decided to apply to English philology, but the main goal was applied linguistics, which in hindsight, I think, may have been a bit of a mistake, as I wouldn't say that the standards were as everyone would have expected. And these were 5 long years at applied linguistics at the University of Warsaw, and oddly enough, some of the professors who ran the classes or the workshops did not really live up to the standards, So basically, Spanish was our main language, not English. And we did have quite a few classes in Spanish literature and South American literature. And I remember a full semester of Spanish literature basically lost, as the professor who came to visit the university from another town, another city, she basically came round with a big notebook where she had her notes, and she would just read them out loud without any interpretation, without any presentation. There were no screens. The classes basically were held in the basement. Some of you who are listening to this podcast may have had some classes, or at least the language classes in Brovarna. So yeah, probably ended up either on the ground floor, the first floor, or God forbid in the basement of that building that does not exist anymore. So yeah, that was 2004 until 2009, and then I took a year off after the end of uni and graduated a year later. After that, I kind of thought I don't want to study as a... Oh my God, what am I talking about? I kind of thought I didn't want to work as a teacher. I didn't want to work as a translator, let alone an interpreter. Interpreting has always seemed too stressful for me, as there wasn't enough time for me to process the information, and, it was just too stressful, to be honest. Also, I have to admit that during the year of interpreting classes, I fell in love and I would not attend the morning sessions. So I think life kind of directed me towards translating more than interpreting. So why did I not work as a teacher straight away? Because my other passion, inspiration was music, illustration, fashion. But, I've always struggled, I still do, with finding certain cuts and designs of clothes. I've always had a problem with that since I was a child. I just had an idea in my mind, and I would go, on a shopping spree and basically come back with empty hands because I wouldn't find anything. So in 2010, I decided to set up a clothing label, which I called Polar Summer, as I thought, okay, I want to create clothes that I want to wear. And I created a sort of a capsule collection of a top, a skirt, a dress. So basically, the dress looked like a combination of the top and the skirt, and the other way around. The top and the skirt looked like the dress cut in half around the waist level. So that was the idea, and the idea was that the materials were waterproof, but really comfortable and airy, and very easy to transport. So basically, even if, chucked into a suitcase without folding carefully, even if rolled, the material would not really crease, so you didn't really have to iron it. And that was brilliant. That was basically a brilliant kind of a gimmick in my label. I also created a collection of coats, kind of a knee length as well as a kind of a maxi length coats, and I think the coats are what I miss the most. I would like to bring them back at some point. Maybe I will. I'm sure you will know about it if I do. And it actually was going pretty well. At the time, back in Warsaw in 2010, I could say that everybody was into kind of kind of alternative arts and crafts kind of markets, where people would basically showcase the clothing lines or the art. So basically that's where I would kind of display my stuff, and people did like it, and I did kind of get a certain following. I wish Instagram had existed then. It didn't. I remember, at least I didn't know it did. I made my first post back in 2012 in the summer, I remember. But yeah, anyway, back to 2010. I was doing Polar Summer. It was going great. I was thinking of ideas. And then, boom, in 2010, me and my then boyfriend decided to move to London, which was a great idea also for the Polar Summer clothing label, because I thought that, I'll be able to promote it in London, the capital of fashion, da-da-da-da-da. But then reality hit, and I had to find a job just to kind of, make a living. And I was lucky enough to actually be offered a job in a toy shop by this really lovely guy, Richard, at whose house we were staying, Agnieszka and Richard's house in Brixton. And he ran this small toy company, Suss and Bell, that has kind of become a bigger enterprise now. And he had a little shop in Covent Garden, right in the heart of the touristy hell, La Piazza. It is a picturesque spot. So if you are in London and if you are in Covent Garden, do make sure you check Covent Garden's La Piazza, with many restaurants and little shops and boutiques. As a tourist, you will enjoy it, or as a visitor, but it's not a particularly pleasant place to work in, especially when you can smell a combination of paella that is being cooked outside and all the scents of soap and perfume from the nearby posh soap shops. So that was basically a nightmare. And then I would also have to go to the recycling centre, and that smell would also kind of stick in my mind. So imagine a combination of the three smells. So basically I wanted to kind of get out of there as soon as I could, especially that people who were running the shop kept a mayo bottle right next to the till. And that was just really strange to me, how they can keep a bottle of mayo, of Hellmann's, right next to the till where they serve customers. They basically had their lunch whilst working. And what I did, I applied to this shop that's basically shut down. I mean, it's still available online, but it doesn't have any stationary shops. But back in the day, it was one of the, trendiest and most hyped shops, American Apparel, where the recruitment process was also quite elaborate. I think you needed 2 or 3 interviews to actually get a job that was paid minimum or almost minimum. So yeah, it's not basically all it's cracked up to be working in a shop. But I had always thought that, working in a shop was quite cool. It could be quite cool, especially like a clothing store, which in fact is not that great, and it kind of takes all this kind of pleasure of shopping and being around clothes if you have to fold them all the time. And finger space, the coat hangers, and you can't really, chat with your colleagues who wear incredibly fascinating people, and still in touch with many of them. So I would say that this is the miracle of that place, that we're still in touch with many of us. But yeah, like somehow working on a day-to-day basis, I kind of let Polar Summer, the clothing label, kind of slip away, and I never really did any collection. And then, after that, I kind of realized I did not want to keep going in a clothing store, and I wanted to do something more, something related to illustration maybe, which was another passion of mine. And so I got an internship in this illustration gallery in Shoreditch. I always laughed that was probably the only gallery in the world that would run to the shop to get more booze when we had run out during a private view. A private view is basically that first day, the opening day for a show in a gallery. So I really hoped that I could kind of stick around longer. And after the internship, I was offered a part-time kind of freelance position, but I did not stick around for long as they let me go after 4 months, and I was heartbroken. So after that, I kind of, chilled out, and I did not really look for a job for a little while, and I claimed job benefits for 2 or 3 months. But after that, I kind of, felt I needed to find a job. So after being turned out several times, I applied to Muji, which is a Japanese shop. There is one in Warsaw as well. It's incredibly expensive. It is also expensive in London. It is cool, I like it, but some of the prices are basically, daylight robbery. Definitely not worth the price. Especially that they're made in the same factory as the products from Uniqlo, for instance. So, and the prices in Uniqlo are completely different. They're way lower, to be honest. So anyway, I was heartbroken. I worked in Muji, and then I thought, oh my God, I don't want to work in a shop anymore again and anymore. So I thought, well, what could I do? Maybe I should go back to teaching. And that's where it all starts. That was the end of 2013. I quit Muji. Then I kind of, looked around what I could do. I tried to understand the whole process. And it turned out that I had to do this harrowing course called CELTA. And CELTA is a course that certifies that an individual is able and is qualified to teach English anywhere in the world. Because as we know, university levels and quality can differ from country to country or city to city, or certain titles and diplomas are not acknowledged in certain places. So CELTA is like this kind of a common ground, this kind of mid-level for people from all around the world who want to teach English. So I signed up. I actually decided to move back to Poland because I didn't want to wait. I wanted to kind of, do it straight away. And I think it's my Aries kind of nature that I'm not very patient. I mean, I am patient as a teacher, as a professional, but when it comes to doing things, I like to do them straight away in the heat of the moment, kind of not waiting for too long. And I decided to move back. And I think that transition from London back to Warsaw happened over the course of 1 month. And it's funny because 5 years later, I decided to move. 5 years later? No, 2 years later, I decided to move back. And that decision was taken over the course of 1 month. Literally, I came back to London in 2017 just to visit. And it was on the 8th of April. It's funny, I remember. And then I was back in London, kind of moved, living in my place in a room that I rented at a friend's place in June already. So it took me 2 months to completely, turn my life upside down and find a job here. Change my life. And here I am, speaking to you from my London flat. I mean, not entirely mine, but, at least I don't flat share anymore, which is another thing, which I will talk about in a podcast if you'd like to listen to it. So, and here I am, guys. So, after two years of teaching in Warsaw, in some terrible schools, but also amazing schools like Archibald, based in Warsaw and Bagno, I decided to move here, and I started my adventure with teaching English to international crowd in Delphin, a wonderful and crazy school based in Holborn that unfortunately does not exist. Thanks to Hannah Dawson, I got my first job in London. She loved the video I sent along with my CV, and I'm really eternally grateful to that woman who gave me the chance to kind of not only work during the summer period, but stay there forever on a full-time basis and basically work until the end of 2019 when the school shut down, sadly, and let us all go right before Christmas, left us all heartbroken. And yes, and I think this is where I'll stop for now, and I will record a whole new episode on how I have become an Instagram teacher. What do you think about that? Well, guys, thank you so much. If you have lasted until this 25th minute of my podcast, then well done. Remember that I attach the script to each podcast so you can follow what I'm saying whilst reading. Pay attention to the phrases in bold, which I think are the phrases that you should take away from this podcast. So not only the storytelling, but also a little bit of English. All right, guys. Well, see you soon. Stay tuned, and thank you for listening.